Spine-chilling discovery, sinister secrets of a cursed civilization revealed in the haunted Andes. Hannah's heart raced as she traced her fingers over the ornate bracelet resting in her palm. Its intricate patterns glimmered in the dusky light of her grandfather's attic, pulsing with a whisper of forgotten tales. She could almost hear the sinister secrets of its ancient civilization fluttering from the shadows. The air grew thicker around her, a tension so palpable it coiled in her stomach like a serpent too heavy to ignore and too chilling to dismiss. Her eyes darted toward the window as a gust rattled the old glass, and she slipped the bracelet onto her wrist, oblivious to the dark curse it carried. Life in her quiet Denver suburb resumed its mundane rhythm. Or so it seemed. Days turned into restless nights, and vague unease began to creep in. The silence of their home grew deafening. Later, shadows twisted into grotesque forms reflected on the pane, creeping and flickering as if drawn by some invisible force. And then, there were Ethan's nightmares, horrific visions of twisted landscapes and monstrous figures clawing their way into his subconscious. He emerged each morning pale, red-rimmed eyes searching for safety in a world that felt increasingly hostile. One evening, as darkness stretched across the neighborhood like a suffocating blanket, Hannah heard it, the echo of whispers swirling through the air, like hushed secrets being shared just out of reach. Anxiety gripped her tightly, her fingers trembling around the necklace resting against her chest. Ethan stumbled into the living room, breathless, haunted. "Mom, did you hear that?" He gasped, his voice barely above a whisper. Panic surged through Hannah. "I did," she replied, her heart pounding as the hairs on her arms stood at attention. The comfort of suburban life was being devoured, streetlights flickering ominously as if trying to flee. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Desperation clawed at Hannah as days passed, each bringing more unsettling occurrences. Each creak in the floorboards felt like a whisper of warning. In the shadows loomed Patrick, the friendly neighbor with a gleam in his eye, an expert in history, offering to lend her help. His stories captivated her, but something about his charm felt like a double-edged sword. What lay buried in his family history? They uncovered terrifying truths about the cursed civilization that had vanished into the Andes, their greed invoking a darkness that haunted their very legacy. The night when Ethan vanished felt surreal, like stepping into a nightmare. Panic coursed through her veins as she raced through the flickering lights, an unending echo of her frantic screams swallowed by the dreadful silence. Her heart thudded heavily in her chest, each beat echoing like the shadows lurking behind her. And as she turned to find Patrick, any semblance of trust evaporated when he revealed his ties to the cursed bloodline, a truth that crumbled her already fragile reality and left her grasping at the edges of fear. Now the dark legacy of the bracelet didn't just threaten her, it sought to reclaim what had been lost to the shadows. Hannah stood there, trembling as the darkness closed in, knowing that saving her son would awaken horrors that had lain dormant for centuries. Was she prepared to face the terrifying truth that entwined them all? The weight of the ancient curse threatened to pull her into the abyss, leaving only one question: would they both survive long enough to escape the nightmare, or were they destined to become another whispered tale in the shadows? Hannah felt the chill wrap around her like a suffocating blanket as she faced Patrick, realization crashing down like thunder in the stormy night. The bracelet's weight on her wrist became unbearable, pulsating with a life of its own as if it sensed her mounting fear. Shadows clawed at the corners of her vision, skittering along the walls, desperate to claim her and Ethan. "Who are you?" she whispered, her heart thudding against her ribcage. Patrick's eyes glinted, something darker lurking beneath that self-assured smile. "I'm your ally, Hannah. You must understand, this isn't just about you and your son. It's about a legacy, a curse," he replied, stepping closer. The fear that had been festering in her gut twisted tighter, releasing a surge of adrenaline. She stepped back, shaking her head, disbelief mixing with dread. "How can I trust you?" she demanded, but doubt clung to her words. Around them, the once familiar living room had morphed into a stage for unseen horrors. The air shimmered with electric tension. "You have the bracelet. That makes you part of it now," Patrick said, his voice lowering. "The curse, it's not just a story. It calls to you. To Ethan." A door creaked somewhere in the house. Hannah's breath quickened. "What do you mean? Where is Ethan?" Panic coursed through her, spurring her eyes back to the shadows, desperately searching for any sign of her son. Patrick's brow furrowed. "To sever the connection, you need to face what he's encountering. The presence that feeds on your fear, it thrives on deep connections. Mother and child." His words sent a shiver down her spine. She had sensed it. The whispers, the chilling aura that loomed closer every night, eager for their fear. She thought it brought Ethan nightmares, now it felt like the monster fed on their very bond. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You must confront it." His gaze was unwavering, the intensity making the hairs on Hannah's arms stand on end. "Only then can you hope to save him and yourself." Feeling cornered by despair, she momentarily thought of running. The idea of facing whatever dark entity had swallowed her son twisted her stomach, but she had to act. What choice did she have? She nodded slowly, realizing she had no other path but into the unknown. Glancing towards the dark hallway that led to the basement, she sensed the weight of the decision pressing heavily upon her. She had walked through darkness before. This time, though, it felt different. "Stay close," she said, taking a shaky breath. She felt the soft thud of her heart racing in her chest. The house seemed to sigh, as if it acknowledged her acceptance of the impending doom. Step by step, Hannah moved towards the basement, the air cooling around her as if the shadows themselves were gathering for the confrontation. The last flickering light bulb buzzed above her, casting foreboding shapes on the floor. "Ethan!" she called, her voice resonating in the stagnant air. It echoed back, mocking her desperation. The whispers grew louder, swirling in chaotic harmony around her. The atmosphere thickened, a darkness enveloped her as she reached the bottom step, heart pounding in sync with the distant wails that sent chills racing down her spine. "Ethan!" she cried again as her resolve wavered, swallowed by the sorrowful lullaby of the shadows creeping closer, hungry, relentless. And then, silence. A single, muffled sound echoed from the depths of the basement. A plea. "Help me." The voice was unmistakably Ethan's, a lifeline thrown to her in the ever-thickening darkness. Before she could even consider what came next, heavy breathing filled the air, and a figure began to emerge from the shadows. In that moment, dread coursed through her veins. Would the curse take another life tonight? As darkness engulfed her, only one thought remained: was the monster truly within the shadows, or was it something far more insidious, lurking within her own heart? And in the face of that terrible question, she steeled herself for the horrifying revelation awaiting her. The figure slipped fully into the light, and Hannah's breath hitched in her throat. It wasn't Ethan. Instead, a gaunt face stared back at her, eyes reflecting an emptiness that spoke of despair, of terror born from shadows. It was a man, frozen in a moment of agony she couldn't comprehend. "Who are you?" she gasped, rage and fear battling for supremacy in her chest as she stepped back, heart racing. "It's too late," he rasped, voice as hollow as the darkness around them. "You've come to join him. To join them." A cold chill snaked down her spine, making her tremble as her mind raced. "Where's Ethan?" She didn't recognize the man, but his face bore the same haunted look she'd seen in the mirror on her worst days, and that made it worse. "Ethan!" she screamed, desperation thickening her voice. "Ethan, answer me." "No." The man lunged forward, arms outstretched, desperation mingling with madness. Don't call him. Not now. This place, it feasts on voices. On connections. Hannah stumbled back, heart racing. The walls of the basement pulsated with a low, sinister rhythm, as if they fed off the panic radiating from her. Was he telling the truth? Her voice echoed through the darkness, picking at the threads of her sanity as the shadows quivered again, something hidden within them, unfurling with sick anticipation. The whispers escalated, weaving their insidious web around her. They felt familiar, ghostly echoes of her past. Hannah, they taunted, each syllable losing suspicion and contempt. Shut up. She shouted, her fists clenching as she fought against the unseen terror. But the darkness closed in tighter, feeding on her fears. The basement felt alive, a breathing entity pulsing around her, a predatory creature hungry for the light of hope. Help me. The plea was suddenly clearer, more insistent, cutting through the chaos. It was Ethan. Panic erupted in her gut, a jagged edge of despair. Ethan! Hannah shouted, desperation transforming her voice into a ragged plea. That's what they want, the gaunt man cried, eyes darting nervously. To make you frantic. It will feed off your grief, your fear. You cannot believe it's real. You need to let him go. Let him go? She echoed, her world collapsing. I can't. I want tea. The basement suddenly felt smaller, suffocating. Hannah could sense the merging shadows, thick like oil, creeping closer. The man's face twisted, and for a moment, she thought she glimpsed a flicker of humanity before darkness consumed him entirely. Leave this place. His voice crackled, splitting the air like glass. Run. Before the shadows take all of you forever. And just like that, he was gone, swallowed into the depths of the blackness, his warning hanging in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. With a renewed sense of urgency, Hannah pushed through the fear, heart hammering with the weight of a mother's love. The walls seemed to pulse ominously, edges fraying as the murmurs intensified. Shadows slithered closer, lurking just beyond her sight. Ethan! She urged again, her voice a thin thread of hope. I'm coming for you. As she moved deeper into the shadows, flinging herself past the crumbling remnants of her fears, the darkness stirred, shifting around her like smoke. What waited at the end? She didn't know. But even as her resolve steeled, a dark whisper slipped through her mind. What will you sacrifice for his life? Behind her, the basement creaked ominously, overwhelming sounds exploding from the shadows, blending into one horrific chorus. Suddenly, the basement door slammed shut. A pulse of energy surged through the cold air, ripping her from her thoughts. She was alone now, encircled by darkness so deep it felt like drowning. Hannah's heart raced. Could she navigate this treacherous path without losing herself? A flicker of light caught her attention ahead. The distant glow beckoned, a promise of truth or another deadly trap. With no more choices to make, she sprinted toward the light, desperate for answers as the darkness clawed at her heels. What awaited on the other side? Would she find Ethan, or something worse? Hannah dashed toward the flickering light, her heart a wild drumbeat in her chest. Each step felt like running against a tide of shadows, icy fingers grasping at her ankles, threatening to drag her back into the depths. The light danced ahead, flickering like a dying star, embodying both hope and a haunting question. Ethan! She called again, her voice wavering, edged with desperation. The light grew brighter, casting elongated shadows that twisted menacingly against the basement walls. The cold air thickened, weighing her down, every breath a battle against suffocation. As she reached the end of the corridor, the light burst forth, revealing a small alcove lined with old wooden shelves like a forgotten archive of the past. A lantern hung suspended from the ceiling, illuminating objects shrouded in dust, glass jars filled with things that should never be seen, blades, bones, and frayed photographs of people with faces twisted in terror. Hannah recoiled, retching at the grotesque. The whispers intensified again, coiling around her like smoke. Help him, help us, they echoed with her own anguish, blending with the cries of the lost. "No!" she shouted back, fists clenched. "I want to be yours." But doubt crept into her mind. Could Ethan really be free? Would it even matter if she escaped? Her thoughts collided like thunder. The gaunt man's warning echoed in her ears. Could it truly feed on her despair? With a surge of clarity, she swept her eyes across the alcove. There had to be something here, a clue, a weapon, anything to fight back against this wretched entity, and then she saw it, a dusty mirror set against the far wall, haphazardly propped like a forgotten relic. As she approached, her reflection shimmered, and the aura of light shifted, distorting her view. She strained to see through the haze, breath caught in her throat, but it wasn't just her own reflection staring back. Beside her, a figure emerged, Ethan's face, pale and ghostly, eyes wide with fear. "Hannah!" he mouthed, a soundless scream that shattered her heart. "Ethan!" she cried, reaching forward. But the glass rippled, trapping him within the confines of reflections, tethering him to the darkness that clawed at the edges. "I'm coming. I will get you out." The ground tilted under her, vibrations coursing beneath her feet, as the basement itself seemed to churn. Cracks appeared in the walls, shadows slithering through them, hungry for the light. "No!" Hannah screamed, backing away. "You can't have him." She grabbed the mirror's edge, trying to pull it down, desperate to shatter whatever held Ethan captive. A loud crack echoed, and the mirror splintered, cracks spidering outward. Ethan's image writhed, screaming silently as shadows surged forward, tendrils snaking toward her. The screams pierced the silence, the cries of the trapped, the tormented spirit of the man and countless others who had lost their battles. Suddenly, the mirror pulsed with light, blinding her momentarily. When the light dimmed, she couldn't believe her eyes. The alcove had transformed. A doorway opened behind her, leading into an infinite dark. "Run, Hannah. You have to trust me." Ethan's voice broke through the din. With sheer instinct, she plunged toward the door, heart pounding as the shadows rushed in, aiming for her legs. She could feel the cold breath of despair wrapping tighter around her, creating a visceral fight-or-flight instinct within her. "Ethan, I want to leave you," she cried, but she felt the swift encroachment of something sinister tugging at the corners of her sanity. Backing away from the light, fear coiled tighter within her, a noose of desperation. She had to make a decision. Go back to save him or escape while she still could? What if she hesitated? What if you don't survive? And with that, the darkness swallowed her scream whole, pulling her deeper as the door threatened to shut behind her, sealing her fate, what lay beyond freedom or eternal torment. Would she sacrifice her safety for a shadow? Breathless, Hannah closed her eyes, whispering in a moment of deep fear and fierce love, "I want to abandon you, Ethan." A shadow loomed behind her, heavy and menacing. But would it be enough? Hannah stumbled through the doorway, heart racing, her senses overloaded. The air thickened, saturated with an oppressive weight that made every breath feel like a struggle. The darkness closed around her, smothering and suffocating, a living entity eager to consume her. Strange whispers echoed around her, indistinct but piercing, twisting together to form a gut-wrenching chorus of agony. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back. What had she done? The echo of Ethan's voice faded as the darkness swallowed it, trapping her in a realm of shadows. Panic clawed at her throat, a desperation to escape overwhelming her. "Ethan!" she shouted, but her voice fell flat in the vast emptiness. The echo bounced back, bringing with it an eerie stillness. The grip of fear tightened around her chest like a vice, squeezing out any remaining courage. She was alone now, and the darkness seemed to pulse with a malevolent heartbeat, calling to her, inviting her deeper into its depths. As she moved cautiously, the ground beneath her feet shifted, like sand shifting under a weight too heavy to bear. She could feel eyes watching, unseen things lurking just beyond her vision, waiting, judging. Shadows flickered just outside her peripheral sight, torturing her with just enough doubt to keep her frozen in place. "Breathe," she whispered to herself, forcing her legs to move forward, one hesitant step at a time. Each sound was exaggerated in the silence, her footsteps echoing back like thunder. Suddenly, a cold gust swept past her, carrying with it a scent sharp and metallic, like iron. Hannah wrinkled her nose. Was it blood? Panic flared within her, igniting her feet into action. She pressed further into the darkness, driven by an instinct she couldn't name, the desire to survive, to find Ethan, to escape. But somewhere in the depths of this malevolent space, a realization crept in. This darkness was not just empty, it was filled with despair. It thrived on fear. The shadows thickened ahead of her, and her heart sank. She hesitated, fear pooling in her stomach. What if she found Ethan, only to find that he was already lost to it, just like the others? Her fingers danced over the cool surfaces of the walls as she tried to steady herself. Then she noticed them faint scratches along the gray stone, lines tracing like a frantic plea. Someone had fought to escape and failed. "Ethan!" She screamed again, desperation lacing her voice. But the only responses were silence and more shadows. Just as she began to lose hope, a flicker of pale light appeared in the distance. Hope sprang within her, urging her forward once more. As she approached, the light swelled into a glowing orb, illuminating the space around it, revealing cracked walls, old symbols etched deep into the stone, and fragments of bones scattered on the ground. The sight turned her stomach. This was a graveyard of souls, trapped within this unholy darkness, and there it was again, that whispering, entwining within the air like smoke. Join us, the voices were myriad, filled with sorrow and longing. Hannah felt the cold fingers of despair clutch at her again, twisting around her. Panic flooded her mind. "Get away. I want to let you take me." Suddenly, the light flickered again, revealing a shadowy figure at the edge of the glow, a tall silhouette, indistinct, its contours shifting like smoke. It loomed larger, its presence edging closer, sinister and suffocating. "Help him," it rasped, a voice like broken glass dragging over stone. Her stomach churned, heart pounding. Who was this figure? And what did it want? In that moment, dread crashed over her like a wave. She was no longer sure if retreating was even an option. If the darkness could devour the lost, what would it do to her? With a gasp, she turned to run, but the weight of despair surged forward, forcing her back. "Where will you go?" The voice taunted, pixelated and harsh. Hannah's pulse quickened. Would she keep fighting? As she looked back, the darkness twisted, revealing glimpses of the horror trapped within. Would she truly save Ethan, or was sacrifice the only option? And then, amidst the chaos, she heard Ethan's voice calling from beyond, stronger this time. Hannah, what would she choose? The shadows loomed closer, and she had only moments to decide, face the horror or let it consume her whole. Outside the orb of light, darkness slipped forward, eager to extinguish her last flicker of hope. "Help me," they whispered, and she knew. Something terrible awaited just ahead. Would she dare to uncover the truth? Hannah didn't have time to think. She bolted toward Ethan's voice, the orb of light flickering behind her like a dying star. "Ethan!" She screamed again, panic fueling her speed. The shadows pooled around her, their icy tendrils reaching out, trying to snatch her back into the depths. Just a little farther, she urged herself, her mind racing. The darkness rippled unnaturally, responding to her fears, and it was almost as if it breathed, hungry for her terror. "Help!" Ethan's voice, muffled and far away, sparked desperation inside her. She dashed toward the sound, each step heavy like wading through water. The walls closed in, the whispers escalating into a cacophony that twisted her thoughts. The cold brushed against her skin, sending shivers through her bones. She could taste the coppery tang of iron growing stronger, and dread clawed at her heart. There was something ahead, lurking just in the depths of her vision, a shadowy outline that twisted and distorted. But then another flicker of light, brighter and more commanding. It pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing her closer, guiding her. "Stay with me, Hannah," Ethan shouted, louder this time, raw energy crackling through his voice. With renewed determination, Hannah lunged forward, diving toward the light. As it expanded, she found herself in a chamber, more vast than she could comprehend. The orb illuminated grotesque figures carved into the walls, faces twisted in agony, eyes hollow, mouths wide in a silent scream. The scene ignited a flare of horror deep within her. "Hannah, please." Ethan's voice was clearer now, echoing like a haunting lullaby. She scanned the dark edges of the room, fear tightening her throat as she caught a glimpse of him. He was suspended against the far wall, a shroud of darkness wrapping around him. He seemed lost, drained, like the very life was being siphoned from him. "No. I'm coming," she cried, her feet pounding against the uneven ground, her body surging toward him, but the shadows surged forward, wrapping around her legs like a chain. Panic gripped her, ensnaring all her motions. "Fight it," Ethan urged, his pale face glowing under the warped light, but the shadows tightened their grip. Hannah yanked, pulling her legs free, only to stumble. "I want tea," she gasped, defiance spilling from her lips. "I want tea, let it take you." The darkness hissed, a chilling sound that made her blood run cold. The figures on the walls seemed to reach for her, as if warning her of some ancient truth woven into the tapestry of terror surrounding them. "Join us, she will join us," the whispers harmonized into something both beautiful and vile, and though they drew her in, she fought against their allure. A sudden thought hit her: this place thrived on her fear, on their despair. Drawing from the well of courage she didn't know she possessed, she faced the shadows. "You cannot have us," she shouted, the sound reverberating in the chamber. The voices recoiled, momentarily faltering like water splashed into flames. With newfound resolve, she edged closer to Ethan, each step pushing against the suffocating darkness. Time slowed as she reached out, fingers trembling, meeting his hand. The moment she touched him, electricity surged through her, an incredible warmth that pushed against the coldness of the shadow. But simultaneously, the darkness writhed violently, screeching in anger. "Run!" Ethan yelled, his strength giving life to her limbs. Hannah turned, pulling Ethan along as the walls trembled, the shadows exploding outward. They raced, the light flickering behind them, the whispers blending into howls of despair. And then in an instant the ground beneath them shifted. The exit of the chamber loomed, but unknown horrors awaited beyond. Would they escape the unholy grasp that had claimed so many before them, or would they join them in the silence, lost forever? A flash of red light illuminated the chamber once more, and just before they reached safety, a trapdoor opened beneath their feet. They fell together into a deeper abyss, the grasp of the shadows clawing at them, and the distant whispers calling them back. "Where will you end up?" The voice echoed, and Hannah felt her heart drop. Darkness swallowed them whole, plunging into the unknown, an abyss that held secrets older than time itself. What awaited them on the other side? Would they find their escape, or the ultimate horror? As they tumbled through the abyss, sensation faded into a blur of falling and fear. Time felt elastic, stretching out, distorting into a painful eternity. The rush of air stung Hannah's face, the shadows clawing at her, pulling her back into their grasp. She shouted, but no sound escaped her lips. Then, everything stopped. The impact was jarring. They hit the ground hard, darkness enveloping them like a heavy shroud. Breathless, Hannah gasped for air, feeling the weight of silence pressing against her. It took a moment for her eyes to adjust to the dim light that flickered inconsistently above them. "Ethan?" His voice was a raspy whisper next to her. "I'm here." Relief washed over her, but it was quickly snatched away by the pressing darkness surrounding them. This place felt different. The air was thick and stale, tasting of decay and despair. Shadows writhed just beyond her vision, and the whispers now clearer, sharper twisted around her like ominous vines. "Where are we?" Hannah murmured, pushing herself into a sitting position. I don't know, Ethan stammered, his voice trembling. But I think we're underground. Hannah's heart raced. Whatever lurked in the shadows had dragged them deeper, far from the flickering light they had clung to. Panic crept in again, clawing at her throat. In the distance, she could see what looked like carved stone structures jutting out of the earth, illuminated by an eerie, phosphorescent glow. Look, Ethan pointed, his fingers shaking. Curiosity wrestled with dread as she turned to follow his gaze. Shadows danced across the ancient carvings, details revealing themselves slowly. The figures depicted rituals, some grotesque, others cruelly beautiful. The faces on the stone, locked in eternal screams, haunted her. As they stumbled closer, whispers morphed into words, echoing like chants reverberating off stone. The offering, the one will rise. What are they saying? Hannah pressed a hand to her ear, as if trying to block out the terror. I don't know, but it feels wrong. Ethan's eyes darted nervously. We shouldn't be here. We need to go back. But we can't. Hannah shot back, feeling the weight of urgency. If we stay here, whatever this place is, it will take us. Suddenly, the ground tremored beneath them, the stone vibrating ominously. Dust and small pebbles fell from the edges of the structure, and the whispers grew louder, transforming into a cacophony of haunting voices pleading for their attention. Join us, become us, they sang, an otherworldly symphony that wormed into her ears. No! Hannah shouted, clutching her head, as though she could erase the sound. She glanced at Ethan, dread pooling in her stomach. We need to find a way out, and fast. Just as she turned away from the carvings, the ground quivered violently, causing both of them to lose their balance. Before they could react, the stone beneath them cracked open, revealing a yawning chasm filled with an inky blackness that seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting like a living thing. Hannah's heart thudded painfully, fear stitching through her veins. Ethan! Grab my hand! As she reached out, he grasped her wrist just in time. The shadows clutched at their feet, pulling, insistent like a hungry predator. Fight it, Hannah! Don't let them take you! Ethan grunted as he leaned back, forcing his weight against the pull. If we're going down, we go together. She yelled, determination surging through her. But then, something shifted in the darkness, thick and corporeal. There was a presence rising, something ancient that had been summoned by their fear. Eyes glinted, hungry and predatory in the dark, and Hannah felt an overwhelming sense of cold seep into her bones. Together she whispered, but uncertainty washed over her again. The shadows twisted, forming a grotesque face that loomed closer, its breath foul and chilling. Just as they prepared to be consumed, the ground shattered, their last grip slipping away, and they fell backward into the gaping maw of darkness toward an unknown fate. Where would they land? What awaited them in this nightmare of stone? Would they uncover the truth, or would the ancient malevolence consume them both? The world spun around them, blackness enveloped every sense. Hannah's heart raced as they plummeted deeper, feeling the pull of shadows that caressed her skin like icy fingers. She barely registered the weight of Ethan's grip slipping away, the last security she had in this chaos. Thud. Suddenly, they landed again, though the impact was softer this time. The ground beneath them felt like damp earth, almost alive, pulsating gently under Hannah's weight. She pushed herself to sit up, but a thick residue held her down, a morass that clung like treacle. Ethan! She gasped, fear trickling into her voice. Where are you? A weak voice answered from nearby. I'm here, I think, he croaked. What was that? Hannah peeled her eyes open to a new abyss of darkness, but this time she saw outlines, dimly lit forms surrounding them. Strange, hulking shapes hunched in a circle, their features obscured by the gloom. The air was colder here, laced with an acrid scent that made her stomach churn. Calm down. You can do this. It's just shadows, right? Get up. She urged, nudging Ethan with her foot, her voice louder now, bolstered by adrenaline. We have to move. Ethan struggled, finally pushing off the sticky substance holding him. "What is this place?" he asked, his voice trembling. No answer came immediately. Instead, the hushed whispers enveloped them again, a soft chorus that felt as if it was brushing against their ears. "The offering accept, join us, stop it." Hannah shouted into the dark, her breath coming quick and shallow. "We don't want anything you're offering." Ethan's face was pale, the glow of something deep within the shadows cast eerie reflections in his eyes. "Hannah, I think they're waiting for us to do something." Before she could respond, the ground quaked beneath them once more. The grotesque shadows began to shift, rearranging themselves, revealing sharp outlines of faces twisted in agony and ecstasy, their mouths moving in dreadful rhythm with the chant. Each face more haunting than the last, spilling out sorrow and desire that seeped into Hannah's bones. A figure broke from the group, stepping into the flickering light that seemed to bleed from the nearby stone walls. It resembled a woman, but her features blurred in and out of clarity. Dark hair flowed like liquid obsidian around a pale and featureless mask. "Welcome, lost ones," she intoned, her voice dripping with an insidious sweetness. "You have come, as foretold, to make the choice an offering for the one who waits." Hannah staggered back, pulling Ethan with her. "We're not part of your sick game. We need to leave." "Leave?" The woman laughed, a sound hollow and echoing, laced with something sinister. "There is no escape from what has awakened. You are here to become part of our story." Ethan's face turned ashen, and Hannah could feel his fear flooding the air around them. "Hannah, I don't want to be a part of this." Suddenly, the chanting grew deafening, and shadows lunged at them, grasping at their limbs like the hands of the damned. Hannah fought against the grip, her breath quickening. "Through the structures!" she yelled, spotting an opening nestled between the figures of stone. "Come on!" Ethan shouted, straining against the pull of the darkness. Their eyes locked for just an instant, and the bond between them seemed both a source of courage and an anchor of despair. As they sprinted toward the opening, the whispers morphed into anguished screams, filling Hannah's mind. "You cannot run. You belong to us." The further they ran, the more the ground beneath them trembled, and with every step, they felt the women's eyes upon them, hungry and yearning. Just as they dove through the opening, a blinding light shattered the darkness momentarily, a revelation of the truth within the shadows, but the ground gave way once more, dragging them into another unseen depth. What lay beneath the earth now? A horrifying truth? Or an unspeakable destiny that awaited them? Would they escape the influence of the cursed voices, or was this only the beginning of something darker? Hannah's world flipped again as they tumbled through the void. No warning, no reprieve. The sensation of falling curled her stomach into knots. Memories of light and safety faded with each heartbeat, slipping from her grasp. Thud. They hit a different surface this time, cold, hard stone. She gasped, bracing herself, blinking against the painted darkness that pressed in around them. Ethan lay beside her, groaning as he rolled over, the sound echoing like a mourner's cry in an empty tomb. "Can you stand?" she asked, her voice shaky but firm. There was a heaviness in the air, like the weight of waiting. It's dark," he mumbled, pushing himself up slowly. "Hannah, where are we?" "Another place," she replied, her eyes straining to adjust. The dim glow that pulsated through the walls of this new chamber gave off a sickly hue, revealing fleeting glimpses of strange symbols etched deeply into the stone. They twisted and turned, crawling like wiggling worms in the half-light. Just then, a chilling wind swept through the chamber, carrying with it the whispers they had heard before. Words sifted through the air like dry leaves, each syllable scraping against Hannah's nerves. "Come closer, join us, you have a choice." Her pulse quickened as she stared into the creeping shadows. "Ethan, we need to find a way out. We can't stay here." The expressions on Ethan's face reflected her own anxiety, fear mixed with determination. What if we don't make a choice? What happens then? There was sharp intake of breath as Hannah felt the grip of terror deepen. The last thing she wanted was to consider the consequences of their silence. "We won't know until we try," she declared, screaming across the cavern. "We're not afraid of you." The shadows shuddered at her words, the whispers rising to a thunderous howling. "Foolish! You cannot escape what has been summoned." They trembled as the shadows writhed, morphing into forms that twisted and lunged toward them. Spectral hands reached out. Hannah yanked Ethan's arm, pulling him a few steps backward, the panic settling in her bones. "Maybe we just need to," she faltered, her mind racing for a response, catching glimpses of the agonized faces swirling around them, looming with expectation. Then she spotted something far across the chamber, a faint flicker of light emanating from an archway, its edges glowing with a welcoming warmth amidst the clutches of despair. "There!" Hannah shouted, pointing towards the light. "Ethan, we have to go." As they ran, Hannah felt a jarring shift beneath her feet. The ancient stone quaked, and a deafening roar reverberated throughout the chamber. "The offering must be made. The one awaits." The voices shrieked. Hannah pushed harder, feeling the forces of darkness closing in behind them. Light shimmered closer, tangling with the sweetness of hope, but ahead lay the unseen horrors stitched into each echoing pulse of the chanting. They couldn't let fear consume them, not now. Just as they reached the archway, sharp claws cold and unyielding gripped her ankle. "No!" she screamed, frantically kicking at the shadowy tendrils attempting to pull her back. Ethan's hand reached for hers, desperation turning to frantic intensity. "Hold on!" he yelled, his grip tight. They surged forward together, hurtling through the archway. Yet as they crossed the threshold, a sudden jolt caught them, and they felt the ground give way once more beneath them. Hannah gasped, trying to jerk free from the powerful darkness that sought to consume them. They were not safe, could never be safe. As they fell deeper through the light, it flickered, dimming, leading them toward an unimaginable fate. What lay ahead in this uncharted descent? Would they uncover the secrets teasing them from the shadows, or would the darkness claim them forever, dragging their souls into a forgotten abyss? The choices haunted them as they tumbled into the void. Would they be brave enough to confront the truths waiting below? Hannah and Ethan landed hard on cold, damp earth, gasping for breath in the silence that followed. The muted aftershocks of their fall rippled through the ground, and the darkness hung thick in the air. The oppressive weight of dread pressed down on them like a leaden blanket. "Where are we?" Hannah croaked, struggling to stand. The flickering light they had chased faded into a soft glow, revealing the contours of the space around them, a cavern, ancient and ominous. "I don't know, but we need to keep moving," Ethan said, determination hardening his voice. They were free of the shadow's clutches for now, but fear gnawed at their hearts. The chill in the air whispered secrets, reminders of the torment they had faced. "Ethan, we can't stop. We have to find a way out of here." Together, they stumbled deeper into the cavern, where shadows slinked across the walls, and whispers rose like a tempest in the air. "The offering, the one will arise," the voices coiled around them, laced with longing and despair. Hannah shook her head defiantly. "No. We won't be your offering." Her words hung in the air, a furious banner against the encroaching darkness. Behind them, the echoes of despair grew louder as if angered by their defiance. They pressed on, hearts pounding, until they reached a ledge that overlooked a vast abyss, a churning sea of darkness. A flicker of hope sparked in Hannah's chest as she spotted a distant glimmer far below, illuminating the stonework of the cavern with a warm light. "That may lead us out." Ethan nodded, his face taut with anxiety. "But how do we get down there?" Hannah scanned the ledge, the walls slick with moisture. Her mind raced, desperate serendipity linking conclusions like whispered secrets in the shadows. "We climb. We have to." With no time to waste, they began their descent, fingers gripping the rough stone, breath coming in labored gasps. The darkness threatened to consume them, but together, they defied it, buoyed by the flickering light of hope below. "Careful," Hannah warned, feeling the ground shift. "Just a little further." As they neared the bottom, a piercing cackle echoed cruelly from the shadows, chilling her bones. You can't escape. You are bound to this place. Ethan's grip tightened, his knuckles white against the stone. We are not bound. He shouted defiantly, his voice cutting through the dismal chants. Then, just as they reached the last ledge, the ground trembled violently beneath them. Hannah swiftly threw her body down and gripped Ethan's arm, pulling him to safety as a jagged rock broke loose, crashing into the abyss below. They tumbled into the light, landing on soft earth, disoriented but alive. The moment they looked up, they realized they were no longer in darkness. Surrounded by glowing symbols swirling around them was a wide, verdant field, vibrant and alive. It felt almost surreal. Waves of golden light washed over them, purging the weight of despair like water washing away grime. Did we make it? Ethan whispered, heart racing. The shadows lingered at the edges, coiling ominously, but the light fought back. As if understanding their thoughts, a voice emerged from the luminescence, soft, warm, gentle. You have faced your fears and challenged the darkness. You are not lost. Hannah gasped as the truth settled over her, a truth clearer than the brightest light. This is the sacrifice, she said slowly, realization dawning. Ethan's brow furrowed. What do you mean? The darkness feeds on despair, on fear. But we can break its hold. We sacrificed our fears to escape. In that moment, the darkness surged forward like an angry tide, and Hannah braced herself, letting out a defiant scream. We refuse to live in terror. The shadows shrieked, struggling against the light. A storm of whispers erupted, piercing through the air, but the bright energy surged, engulfing the darkness entirely, its icy grip faltering. Together. They shouted, hearts pounding in unison, voices mingling in an echo of strength. We choose love, not fear. What followed was a blinding flash, the shadows recoiling into a thin wisp, dissolving in the warmth of the light around them. Together they exhaled, the atmosphere shifting, the whispers faded, leaving only a gentle breeze lingering softly against their skin. Mama? A small voice called out from the distance. Hannah's heart surged with joy. The sight of her son, vibrant and whole, standing beneath the warm sunlight ignited every nerve in her body. Ethan. Her voice rang out, a symphony of relief. As she rushed to him, they embraced tightly, tears of joy pouring down their cheeks, washing away the remnants of fear. They had escaped, the darkness was behind them. The shadows that had intertwined so deeply were severed, replaced by the warmth of love and hope. Are we truly free? Ethan asked, looking up at Hannah's beaming face. Together, we are, she replied, holding him tightly. The cacophony of the past seemed a distant memory now. As they walked towards the horizon, a new chapter opened before them with light, with love, and memories free from shadows to bind them. The horizon stretched wide, limitless. But before they departed, pulling away from the past forever, a whisper of urgency remained. You know what to do. This was more than just an escape. It was a call, a moment to remember the stories of those before, to honor by choosing hope, to break the cycle. To those within darkness, let its tales not be forgotten, for the light within is worth every battle stood. If you're feeling that rush of emotion from this conclusion, then you need to subscribe now so you never miss an exclusive story again. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, we absolutely appreciate it. And don't hold back, flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Lastly, this is the moment to show your support. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Only the true fans know how much these actions mean for the channel's future. Don't wait even one more second.